What is going on, guys? How are you? Welcome back to the channel. My name is George, and in today's video we'll be having a look at 10 GMT watches under $200. I think in today's world, with so much technology available in our back pocket, finding the time in multiple parts of the world at the same time could literally take seconds. Now, all of that can make that extra GMT hand on your watch seem useless. All that being said, I think there's something about a GMT watch that makes it so appealing that I just can't put my finger on. In today's video, we'll be having a look at 10 of those watches, mostly analog with the exception of one digital watch that I think it's so cool and so interesting, especially for the price that I just had to feature it. Before we get into the rest of the video, I would really like for you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't so, and now let's get into it. So the first watch that we have on the list, guys, is the Parnis P138, and this one comes in at $77. Even though this is an homage watch and not an original design, in my opinion, I think it deserves a spot on the list, and I think it's fair that I start with it. This was the first of the AliExpress treasures to feature a GMT function. Now, granted, you can only track 2 time zones with it, but it was more than that. The desirable case design in combination with the high spec sheet that we're used to expect from these watches showed us that you can have a GMT watch on your wrist for less than $100. And as an added bonus, this features an automatic movement unlike other watches that would cost a bit more on this list. The second watch that we have on the list, guys, is the Invicta Pro Diver 25820, and this one costs $139. I know what you're going to say, oh okay, Invicta. But I always say that as watch enthusiasts, for us, all watches should be created equal, unless they're movement watches or Daniel Wellington. Now, all joking aside, I think that Invicta has done a decent job with this. I like the Pepsi bezel, and also even though the watch is 44mm, it's not in-your-face Invicta. This one has a lot of potential, and as an added bonus, you're getting sapphire crystal plus 100 meters of water resistance. You're still getting the Invicta writing, that ugly Invicta writing on the side of the case, but at least the case has that kind of matte brush finish to it that gives it a better overall look. I think Invicta has created its own category of followers here and in the watch world, actually. And I think this one deserves a spot in that watch world, as all the other Invictas that we kind of love to hate or love to love for some of us, this one I think should get into that category. Watch number 3, guys, is the Timex T2N 700, and this one comes in at $95. Another one from Timex, and this is the first of the 2 on the list. This one is not like your traditional 300 GMT, but you can still track 2 time zones with it. The design is not to everyone's liking because at first it may look a little overcrowded and it may give the impression that it might be harder to operate, but like many Timex watches, these kind of built a reputation of their own. The usual Indiglo function is still there, added to the affordable price, plus 100 meters of water resistance brings to the table a very quirky yet attractive package. This watch is not for everyone, but the fact that it's a bit different and a bit complicated is what makes it interesting. And again, Timex delivers, and they always manage to pull out of the bag somehow at whatever price point you would actually throw at them. Watch number 4, guys, is the Fossil LE1107, and this one is $190. Now, before you judge me for featuring a Fossil on the list, a Fossil watch on the list, which technically isn't a watch brand, I have to say that this one doesn't look bad at all. I have to admit myself that I only found out recently that the Fossil group also owns Skagen and also owns Zodiac. So the orientation is there. Nevertheless, in my opinion, this particular piece at first glance does not share any similarities to its brothers and sisters, the more fashion-oriented watches. Not that you need a GMT hand at a 200 meter water resistant diver, but at the end of the day, the design works. Very legible dial and also a separate screw down crown to operate the GMT bezel. I personally think that more fashion brands like this should take the same route as Kevin Klein, for instance. Well, the Kevin Klein watch, the Infinity, where you get a seriously spec watch done right and then you slap your logo on it. Now, not that I'm encouraging them to lie, but might as well, if you're gonna do that, might as well just do it right. So watch number 5, guys, is the Casio AE-3000W, and this one comes in at $32. The Casio is the only digital watch that I was mentioning to you guys at the start of the video on the list, and partly because I wanted a Casio on the list, and partly because it displays 3 time zones at the same time. You can imagine that this is not a small watch. Once again, the GMT function combined with Casio's build quality, 100 meters of water resistance, and this one also has the 10-year battery. This, in my book, would clarify more as a tool watch, daily beater at a very, very affordable package. As we're used to from Casio, this one displays 3 time zones, so if you're ever in, if you have friends in different parts of the world that you want to keep track of their schedule somehow, this would be a good little watch to remind you of the time, or to help you keep track with their schedule, like I said, and also to keep in contact. Watch number 6, guys, is the Vostok Amphibian 960761, and this one is from the Neptune lineup, and it costs $132. Now, Vostok is a brand that I haven't mentioned on the channel that often, not because I think they're bad watches, just because I never gained that much interest in them. Nevertheless, the watch that we're having a look at today combines the Russian Vostok distinctive look with the functionality of a GMT to bring you a very appealing package, I have to say. Very nice and typical Vostok design with the bulky crown that we kind of loved to learn to love at this stage. Very legible dial, and one of the biggest drawbacks with these watches, with the Vostoks, was they were notorious hair grabbers, hair pulling hair grabbers. This one has an integrated bracelet, but in my opinion, slightly better made, I have to say, but you're kind of stuck with it, so they kind of had to make it better. The case has a polished finish that enhances the overall look of the Russian legend, that I like to call it, and also at the same time the functionality of a GMT that Vostok doesn't actually do that often. But nevertheless, I think it's a cracking little watch for not a lot of money. So watch number 7, guys, is the Timex Allied 3 GMT, and this model number is TW2R43500, and it costs $165. Yet another Timex on the list, but well deserved, I think. When you think about $165 for a Timex, might be a lot. I would urge you to reconsider, because not too long ago these models were discontinued and they used to go for a lot more. This one is another killer, well designed, 100 meters of water resistance, and it's called a 3 GMT because you can track 3 different time zones through the bezel, and another one through the chapter ring and your regular time zone. Yes, it's a bit of a big watch, but the lugs point downwards, which make it suited for smaller wrists, obviously, and also features Timex Indiglo function that we learn to love and to expect at this stage, which in this case adds to the functionality. Watch number 8, guys, is the Rotary Henley, and this is the GB05295-04, and it costs $193. Rotary is another one of those brands that kind of got a bit lost, considering the fact that it was founded in 1895 in Switzerland. It slowly moved to the UK, where it stayed. This particular model has nothing special in terms of design, but it has the basics nailed, and in my opinion, a very simple orange GMT hand that stands out on the black dial. But I think that the thing that makes all the difference is this silver stainless steel bezel that brings a touch of class to the whole design. I have to say that I'm a big fan, and this goes to show that a simple design, done well, can look so good. And this is what I've been saying, guys. You don't have to reinvent a new watch, and just have to do it right. Just get the basics nailed and stick to it and do them very well, and you'll have something that works really, really well. Watch number 9, guys, is a Zeppelin, and this is the model number 76425LZ127, and this one costs $177. This is a brand that I have to say that I've admired from a distance. So Zeppelin has their own design that's very easy to distinguish, with the classic numerals slightly angled, and this is a feature that carries on to most of their watches. On this model, the GMT markers are on a smaller hour track that makes reading the second time zone very, very easy at a glance. Even though the dial has a lot going on for it, it's very legible. Everything looks like it's exactly where it belongs, and overall it has a very well balanced design. They didn't skimp on the movement on this one, so it has a Swiss round at 505. just to offer that extra bit of security. And overall, it's a piece to consider even if you're not into the market for GMTs, and if you're not in the market for that particular GMT. But at the same time, I think Zeppelin has an entire lineup that's worth considering. So the 10th and final watch on the list, guys, is the Tachmeister T0275, and this one costs $179. I think the first question on everyone's lips when seeing this watch is, why would you need a GMT hand on a 1,000-meter diver watch? And for me, the answer is very simple. Why not? Or just because they can. Or maybe you forget what time it is in London when you're diving. Nevertheless, this one looks like a very, very attractive piece. I have to say, it has a very appealing package. Also fitted with a helium escape valve. It features a quartz movement Ronda 515, flat sapphire crystal, and I think despite the bulky look and the design, offers a lot for the price. And especially if it owns up to the stated water resistance, I think this one is definitely one that you guys should check out. Now guys, those are my 10 watches, 10 GMT watches under $200. If I missed anything, or if you would like to suggest something, leave it in the comment section below. Please, I'll leave all the relevant links in the description box just for you guys to check out all the watches that I was talking about for you today. Once again, click a like, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for listening to me talk about watches for as long as I did. I will see you guys in the next one, and thanks a million.